me again, of course. Alright, so I'm going to be back with another review of a foundation. This one is the CoverGirl CG Smoothers Hydrating Makeup. That's all it says. It's in ivory. Now, it doesn't come in like a package, it just comes in this little tube. And it says, continually hydrate skin for 11 hours so skin looks smooth and naturally beautiful. And it says, unscented, won't clog pores, dermatologically tested. So this one I'm kind of, I don't know, I have oily skin, so this might not be the best choice for me. But it comes in, it looks pretty light, so I'm kind of interested to see, you know, how that's going to work on my albino skin. So, alright, let's crack this little squeezy tube. I appreciate that. Let's see. Alright, so let's just get into it. Not too much to say. I haven't done any research on this at all. I'm just assuming and going by the actual claims on the bottle. It has no coverage claim, so let's just see how it goes. Alright. Okay, it looks nice and light. It is pretty creamy. It's not runny at all. I just put a little tiny bit there, so let's just see. I don't know what the best way to do this is. I think I'm just gonna dab it on my skin. Oh, it's really light. It's not too orange. Well, it's a little bit orange. It's not as orange as some of them have been. It says it doesn't have a scent, but it smells kind of good. Oh, that's my sponge, actually. I just washed it. So it smells like my soap at home. Well, that little half a pea size was enough to do from like my cheek, chin, nose area. So let's grab a little bit more and see what we got. It's thin, but it's still pretty creamy, and it's not runny, but it's still pretty thin. And the true test is usually almost always on my dark circles. See how they cover that up, how it covers that up. It's really thin, which I like, because usually the creamier a product is, or the thicker it is, the worse it looks on my skin. It just ends up looking thick and cakey and not good. Alright. Looks like we got a pretty good, an okay cover on the dark under eye circles. Get a little bit more. Okay, so there's sponge side. Well, I'm not like totally like flipping out about it. Looks okay. Let's try the brush side. Just kind of loading my brush up. Tap it on. And buff it in. I feel like the brush kind of, well, I don't know, it's still kind of on there. I was gonna say I feel like the brush kind of soaks up the product. It does a little bit, but when I was buffing it out a little bit, I could still feel like the cool moisture of the product's still there, so it was really spreading it out pretty nicely. Okay, so for shade, I think that's a really good shade. This is probably the best shade from CoverGirl that I've gotten so far, of the ones that I've tested. And it did end up being the next one up, lightest one up. I want to say that this was the lightest one in this CG Smoothers little section, because some of them, like I know like the Outlast Stay Fabulous or whatever has lighter shades. When that one first came out, they had really light shades. Okay, it's not tacky at all, not transferring at all, very thin. It looks, so far it's looking pretty good. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer. Look, I don't have a small mirror, sorry you guys, I'm gonna have to look. It looks like it's clinging a little bit weird on my upper lip. Sometimes that happens. It's the only place where I kind of have a dry, in the, you know, the center of my cheeks is usually pretty normal, but this part sometimes can be dry and it can, makeup can tend to cling. I don't know, I think it looks pretty good. It doesn't feel like excessively hydrating. I'm gonna see if I can take the sponge and put like a little bit more, a little bit of an extra, a little bit more of a layer right here, especially around my eyes. I'd say the one thing is though is like I would add this if you're gonna get this, which I at this point it looks pretty good. I think it looks nice on the skin. This one was about $8. So I think that's a very decent price for a nice foundation. If it, you know, works the way you need it to. So this says it's a hydrating formula. So for someone like me that has oily skin, predominantly oily skin, I actually have combination, but the thing that I'm usually looking to deal with is the oily part. I think that second layer made it look still pretty. It still looks really nice, like on my skin. All right, so there you have it. I would say, whoops, I've got some, sorry, I wasn't checking my light. Now I'm looking at it, it's like shining really bright. Okay, so looking at this just in my regular, let's see, sorry, we'll do that. We'll see if that helps. I know this is so professional, right? I don't know, looking at it from my perspective, I think it looks nice on the skin. It feels like the tiniest bit tacky, but not very much. I always set everything with a powder, or at least I always finish everything with a powder just because I like the look of that. But if you're dry skinned, you might not even need to powder this. And if you did, just on places where you're going to add extra powder makeup, like blush, you know, any of that kind of stuff, you're going to put a powder on top of it, then I would, you know, powder those areas. And if you're not into powder too much, you could just do T-zone, and I think that would be pretty. But it looks really good, and I think the shade for me is pretty good. Not too orangey. I think my neck is just still a tad lighter. It's looking good on my pores. It's not bad. It's not bad. And I think $7, I think it was $7.44 at Walmart. The range, of course, is not that great. It's still just mostly from, I would say, light, not fair, but light to medium skin tones. This is good for. I'll put an update in the description box to tell you how this does for oily skin. But so far, not bad. I'm very pleasantly surprised. I didn't think I would like this one at all. But again, I have oily skin, so as of right now, it's looking pretty good. Looks good on my skin. It doesn't look real makeup-y. It looks really nice. It tackled my under eyes, not completely, but pretty good. I mean, it gave me some coverage on there, and I didn't have to put a ton of product, just a thin layer, and then a second thin, very extremely thin layer. Like, sometimes I wonder like how that comes across, but just so you know, I put an extremely thin layer on of all my foundations because I don't want this heavy, cakey, 2-inch thick foundation mess at all. That's not what I'm into. Yeah, so that's that. I would say though, if you are going to build it up, keep doing a little by little, because it seems like the sponge kind of soaks the product up, and the brush did soak the product up a little bit, so it's going to be a little bit harder, or you're going to have to keep putting more and more and more if you're not careful. And I think even a better way to do it is to apply it to the skin first and then blend it with a sponge or a brush. I think that's a little bit better, because otherwise it just soaks it up when you dip it in. So all right, so that's that. So for a $7 foundation, which you can just get from any drugstore, I think this is not bad at all. I'm really liking the color too. I'm surprised about that. Not too orangey, this one. Bit more of my skin tone, which is got a little bit of a beigey, neutral to yellow. I would call it more yellow. All right, so that's that. I've got another video coming up, so I will see you guys then. Bye.